Welcome along to Mexico City for round number 10 of the Tier 2 season. It is season 10 of Tier 2, and it is now time to give you the rundown. I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles, and it is good to have you all join us for Mexico. A race that is very highly anticipated in terms of the championship. It's the penultimate round, 2 races to go, and 2 chances to win the championship, or if you're not in contention for the championship, get up higher in the standings for where you finish upon the season. Let's go over just a couple of things. Before we get to normal headlines, we're going to get to these driver standings and the constructor standings. The driver standings has Hunted leading by 6 points. He's not here today, though. He's missing today. He made this very well known a while back. Groggers is 34 points back from Hunted. His destiny on whether or not he stays in this championship battle can also be determined by where Grandpa finishes. And JTK, who's racing for Red Bull with a different teammate of Mythic this time, is 50 points back, but has to do everything possible to be in this championship race still. He has to win the race no matter what. Cannot finish second, and JTK has not won a race in this game in RPL, so he'd be doing this for the first time. So big stuff in terms of the championship. How about big stuff in terms of the Constructors' Championship? We mentioned one Red Bull missing today. Well, it was replaced by an AlphaTauri driver with the Academy system in place. Mythic is in Red Bull. Well, Alex Bear's missing for Ferrari. Lennon in Ferrari. Lennon had a nice debut last week, P4 on the Haas, and Lennon gets the promotion for one race, with that said. So he gets to prove himself on whether or not he is worthy of that seat in the near future in RPL. And McLaren has Jackstar and Grandpa. Last week it was Tadpole and Grandpa. This week it's Jackstar and Grandpa. But those are the 3 teams, Ferrari, Red Bull, McLaren, the 3 teams that we just mentioned, still available to take the Constructors' title. We mentioned the chance of Groggers being out of this championship race for the driver standings. JTK the same way as well. That title will go to Brazil. However, this one is not as likely to go to Brazil. It still could. But Ferrari lead by a 19-point gap over Red Bull. You're thinking, they have a comfortable gap, right? Well, circumstance dependent. They have probably the better driver lineup today, Ferrari do, than Red Bull. But Red Bull easily will win out with the better car around the circuit. We saw Red Bull with Reese Dainty come from P20 to P3 on the grid in this race in Tier 1. Cryptic was up there at the very beginning of the race. Josh was up there for Ferrari. Jack, however, wasn't up there fully, but he kind of put himself a little farther back by doing a 2-stop. Josh stayed consistent in his pace, but that tire wear for Ferrari is just absolutely astonishing in a very negative way, and that is what could cost them today. With that said, the team chasing Ferrari and Red Bull to stay in this race is McLaren. They need to gain 10 points to still be in this championship race at the end of today. They are 53 points back from Ferrari, and they are a whopping 34 points back from Red Bull. Their destiny can also be controlled by what Red Bull does. Because if Red Bull outperformed them that much, McLaren scores some points, Ferrari score none, McLaren would not be eligible to have a chance in this constructors fight. Again, a lot of things can happen. We are now getting underway for this event, qualifying up first and then the race up next. Welcome along to those of you joining us in chat. It's good to see you, Invade. I'm glad to see you back this week. So welcome along. Let us know who you are rooting for, if there is any certain driver you are in favor of, or race engineering, or simply you're a driver yourself and you're watching the stream. There's a lot of drivers who do tend to do that. Would be nice to know. It would be nice to see you all in chat for your predictions or whatever it may be for this Grand Prix. It's likely a 2-stop most cases in this race, but we're expecting more so of a 1-stop just because the tier 2 did not, or the 2-stop, excuse me, did not work in tier 1. So we'll find out on that. We'll get through the headlines in just a moment. We want to see if there's rain, though, for the qualifying session. It doesn't look like there is, but it very well could be raining with it being this cloudy. We'll have the drivers tell us. Either way, here are your headlines for this event. You have Grandpa with a qualifying ban. Last week, he retired in the race for no reason whatsoever. It's a really bad look, in fact, but if he did not have, or if he had damage that was unrepairable, he did not make anyone aware of that. Therefore, he is going to have to serve a qualifying ban, but he is going out on track first. With that said, you have FBL, who also has a qualifying ban. He's not in this lobby today, so he'll have to serve it next week or the next time he shows up. Hunted originally had a qualifying ban, but he's getting penalty points added onto his name for an incident that happened in qualifying last week that we caught on stream. We have Korsman, who won this race in Tier 1 for McLaren, so a lot of hope there. Annex, breaking news, a previous AlphaTauri driver and a loan to the Ferrari Academy as of recent, has been banned. He admitted to cheating. We're not going to get too much into that, but worth making it aware, because what does this affect? Well, this affects really every academy in a way, good or bad, for its own reasons. You have this being the first Tier 2 Mexico appearance on the RPL calendar since Season 8, 2 seasons ago. In fact, I believe it was Owen and Josh, the ones who were up front in that race. It should be interesting to see how Owen fares in this one in a Haas this time. Florian qualifying ban, Lennon Ferrari. Stenner demoted to reserve, so that's why he is here last moment. And I believe there's just a couple of other things as well to mention. We've got Mythic and a Red Bull for the first time since Bahrain. And Wavy returning to Tier 2 for the first time since the finale of Season 8. And here we go. Make PK on a lap. Let's talk about Make PK for a second. Going to Williams next season. And running off track here with the issue on that lap, we're going to go to a different driver. How about Lennon in the Ferrari debut? Let's talk about Lennon for a moment. Lennon, P4 on the debut last week for Haas. Similar to Alex Baer getting points in the debut. Double right there. Into the S section we go now, where he will be very, very careful on these curbs, because these are auto spin curbs. The left one, not so much. Now you get to the final part of the S section, which didn't seem so tricky for Lennon. First lap set is Grandpa, but he is a qualifying ban, so he's going to have to disqualify himself from this session. He is not allowed to be on track. That's going to be very troubling for our championship leader. Coming to the line now, final corner for Lennon. What can Lennon do? Lennon goes fastest, obviously, with only 2 drivers setting a time, but 16.6 is the benchmark. Yeah, I don't know why Grandpa's on track. We're going to figure that out. We've mentioned it to him that he's got a qualifying ban. He's known it from the studying decisions being out. And one other thing as well, you have Zatsy, a good friend of his, who's joined back to the league, in the lobby and in a race seat for next season. Hopefully he's watching the stream instead of just simply race engineering the driver. Therefore, he knows to let Grandpa know there's a qualifying ban and a race ban heading his way if he does not disqualify himself from the session. because he should not be setting a lap time. Instincts, Mythic, J&T, Kipu, and now Tadpole have all set laps. Who is starting a lap? Our next driver is Beatnik. Beatnik going full-time next season in Tier 2. Tier 2 schedule got released privately to the admin team this week. In fact, it was yesterday it did. There's quite a few interesting things about the Tier 2 schedule, but this track is not one of them that's on the calendar for next season, with Grandpa going fastest now, and that's going to be very, very troubling to see once he reads the chat. Either way. With Beatnik on track, yep, he's going to Mercedes next season. He's going to be alongside Owen. I believe that's a car getting out of his way. Actually, no, it's not, because you still have the Alpine in front. Not only is he going to Tier 2 next season, but this weekend is Beatnik's last full-time Tier 1 start in RPL for a long while. Got a new job. It's going to affect his Tier 1 scheduling. So he's going to take that team principal role more seriously rather than a racing seat in Tier 1. Obviously, already mentioned he's going to Tier 2 next season, so he's got that to focus toward. The Tier 2 time does fit his schedule. Tadpole finally gets out of the way. Final corner for Beatnik. With that Tier 2 schedule being more favorable towards him, he'll be able to push here more often. And with him pushing, he's going to go third fastest. Likely second fastest as we sit right now. And the thing is, Grandpa cannot go back to the pit lane and simply retire from the session and get away with this. That's the thing. He has to disqualify himself in order to avoid the race ban. Molly did the same thing in Austria in Tier 1, avoided the race ban. That's the only way Grandpa's going to avoid a race ban here. And I'm going to message Zatsy because Zatsy's a good friend with Grandpa. I want to see if Zatsy is aware of this with Grandpa, because I believe those two are usually in parties for races, if I'm not wrong. And I just want to validate it just because of the fact that the qualifying ban is going to cost him, no doubt about it, for this race being at the back. But if he gets a race ban added on with it due to what he's got, then that's not good. I think he's just realized he's got a qualifying ban. Well, let me put it this way. A lot of the drivers have lives, which is fair enough. A lot of us do. Totally understandable. However, checking the chat once a week, maybe twice a week, checking at least your pings to notice you have a qualifying ban is something that I think some of the drivers don't always do. And the thing with Grandpa is he is 6 points back in the championship. So realistically, starting at the back of the grid is not the worst case scenario for him. Look at what Reese did in Tier 1. He went from 20th to 3rd. Hunted believed Grandpa didn't have a chance of scoring a podium this race. I don't agree with that. I think Grandpa has a damn good chance at scoring a podium this race, similar to what Reese did in F1 Tier 1. And that McLaren won the race here at Korsman. So Grandpa has a really good chance at doing just that, but he's going to start at the back of the grid now. Grandpa's qualifying ban being served after he did not serve it at the very start of the session. Hopefully that car does not pull out of track. We're just going to be careful and watch this in case something happens before we get to any further laps. He is disqualified. You got a car in the main straight. That's the Red Bull. Don't pull out in front of the Alfa Romeo. We're okay, I think. That's the last car to go by him. That Alfa Romeo was Stenner, and he's on an outlap, luckily. So that is the best case scenario for Stenner. Valkyrie on a lap. Valkyrie took her first podium in Tier 2 earlier in the season at Spain, heading to her home race next week at Brazil, where she was contending for the race win, but had a penalty late in the race. So we're going to see how she fares in this one. Turn 1 through 3, a very tricky, treacherous section. You can see the McLaren going off there. That's Grandpa disqualified, starting last. Sector 2 she comes. 30.2, down a second on her time, so we're going to switch 0.2 point of views to a different driver. Kipu is starting a lap, and it's going to open the DRS now. Lap time set for the Aston Martin. That looked like it was wavy in his Tier 2 return. He got a podium previously in F2 in his return to RPL this season at Zandvoort. But it's really been a struggle F2 has. He's not like the way those cars feel. He has been frustrated with F2. But he's got a Mercedes Academy alongside him that's very helpful because the Mercedes right there of Valkyrie or Beatnik, I don't remember which one it was, has just given Kipu a nice little slipstream here in the run to turn 4. And now we run to the S's. How much curbing is Kipu going to use? Those curbing can really set you off, but you got to be careful how you use it. You can use a little bit, but you can't use a lot. I think Kipu was very careful on how much he used. He's 2/10 up, so he could likely go ahead of the Haas of Owen, could go ahead of the Alfa Romeo of J&T next up. Stadium section where the fireworks will go off after this race is over. Little slide there. You got to get the traction right in this section for sure. Exits out of the final corner, dips to the right side, and will go faster than Owen, but not faster than J&T. He's just barely off of him. We got the Red Bull of JTK, who's going to go pole position for a 16.5. We have Stenner, who sets a lap in the Alfa Romeo, who's 5th fastest. Whoa. Alfa Romeo going along very nicely, and next up is Jackstar. Jackstar, a podium last season in Tier 2. So far this season, no podium to his name. He had a chance in Hungary, but got involved in a last lap collision with Groggers that cost his chances. Now going through turn 1. Fast in, slow out. Compromise this line for turn 2. DRS now applied. Sector split is going to be a 28.8 at the end of that sector. Now, hugging those curbs. Trying to arc the entry. Find the time. More drivers are either ending their laps or starting their laps. Not everybody's on the track now, but Jackstar avoids the curbs on the right side. Hits the curbs on the left side. Edges back to find the time. Find the right line for the end of the S's, and 57.0. Purple, he's going. This McLaren got a car upgrade a couple months ago, and since then, they've been fast. Jackstar, part of that Alpine Academy last season, got a podium with Alpine at Texas. Now with McLaren, the better car, has a chance to sit on pole position here. He's just on the front row, and that is 4 drivers within a 1/10 of each other. Incredible timing in the session right now. 9, 10 of you watching. I saw 11 at one point. Thank you to those of you watching. Please give us your predictions for qualifying. We'd like to know who you think is going to be on pole position. We've had Hunted on pole 5 times, Red Bull on pole 5 times this season, Florian on pole 3 times, Ferrari on pole 3 times, and Grandpa on pole once, with McLaren having one of those as a team. With that said, we'll now see who becomes the 4th different pole sitter this season, because none of those 3 will get pole today. Owen, final corner now. Enters toward that curbing. Exits toward that curbing. And comes to the line to be ahead of his teammate, Instincts. 8th fastest. Mythic is on an outlap. Everybody else is on an inlap. Let's just talk about a couple of things with next season's lineup as well, while we're at it during this qualifying session with 4 minutes remaining. Mythic's about to start a lap. We'll get on board with him in just a moment. So, Kipu originally was signed to a Williams contract for next season. He decided to back out of that. He's now going to AlphaTauri. AlphaTauri finally signed a driver. But because of Kipu backing out, you guess who gets the Williams seat there? Zatsi. Zatsi returns to RPL, not allowed to race Tier 1 due to some shenanigans the last couple of times he's raced Tier 1, but needs to prove himself again in Tier 2. In fact, the first ever race winner, or sorry, one of the first ever podium sitters here in RPL, excuse me. I wanted to say he was the first race winner, but that was Tyler Fish in RPL F1. Either way, Zatsy at Williams next season. And gonna need to prove himself, like I said, in Tier 2. Lone Ferrari out on track. That's Lennon on an outlap. But here's Mythic on a lap. Mythic a 10th down on the time. You can already see Mythic struggling through the double right. Now coming toward the S section. How's he going to set up his lap in this Red Bull? Gonna go back to going on board with him fully. A little bit of a struggle there through the curbs. Backs out of this one. And the thing is, too, is he's just on the cusp of getting into the top 10, too. So he has a chance. But he's going to reset and go for another one or head to the pit lane. And if he does head to the pit lane, he's going to have one more go at this. However, it may be close because he is cutting it close. There's only 2 minutes left in the session. And realistically, if you want to have a chance to be out on track and get yourself set up for maybe a second lap, you'd want to be on track now, but Stenner is one who's not on track now with being content with being 6th fastest. Final laps of qualifying with just less than 2 minutes remaining. Here's Lennon and the Ferrari. First start here. Turn 2, turn 3. Bounced over the 2 curb. 3rd curb, he did not bounce over. And now comes to the sector split. What's it going to be? It is going to be up on the time. He's got a couple of cars for traffic in front of him. That's the McLaren of Jackstar. Now going to get out of the way. But how much did that compromise Lennon now becomes the question. He's got a couple of more cars to negotiate before he continues this lap and ends it off at the start-finish line out of the final corner in turn 17, excuse me. Now, the S section for Lennon. Pushing a lot. Pushing the boundaries, going all through those curbs. 2 tenths up in the time and taking a purple sector with it. He's got 2 more cars to negotiate. One was a Red Bull right there. The next is a Haas. Cars returning from the session, Mythic being one of them. He's out of this session and not going to get another lap in. But Lennon is the first one to have a final lap in. Comes to the line. Ferrari debut is going to make a Ferrari pole position. First time on pole in just his second start. He's the one that they're going to be chasing with a 16-2. We now go to the other drivers crossing the line now. On laps and on in-laps. Wavy Knife is the next one who's going to start a lap. Invade is the next one who's going to cross the line and complete a lap. Next driver to reach the checker flag is Kipu. Kipu is close, but will make it. Invade, up on the time. Invade has a chance to be inside the top 10 if he just improved Sector 3. He did not improve Sector 3 enough, but did improve the time. 11th fastest for Invade. Returning after not being here last week, and next across the line is Make PK, improving as well. PK is doing a personal best with the second sector, 4 tenths up, trying not to be slowest, so the runner still left in the session could beat Kipu. But here comes PK out of the final corner. Arcs it, comes to the line, 13th fastest. Found time in the final sector. Groggers, 34 points back in the championship, needs a pole position, but he's invalidated. 4th fastest and 4th at best. Next is Instincts. Instincts was down and is still down. Cannot better that. Coming to the line. Tadpole is next. Podium in Singapore. Where's he going to start for Alpine? 3rd fastest. Whoa, what a lap from him. Jackstar aborts the final lap, and next is the Mercedes of Beatnik, who crashes across the line. 6th fastest. Valkyrie's next. She was down on the time. Owen's next. He's up on the time. Can he take 8th? No. Lost time in the last sector. And unless anyone can pull out a shocker here, it's going to be Lennon on pole. Wavy improved by 1,000th. Next across the line was Kipu. Kipu improves over PK and Wavy. Wavy's last of the runners here. Invade heads to the pit lane, and JNT made a mistake on that last lap, meaning Lennon for Ferrari takes their 4th pole position of the season, and only a second start is on pole for the first time. See Wavy Knife's car being brought back to the pit lane after his return to Tier 2. Not the best qualifying he would have wanted, but he's got a lot of information that he's gathered here before he returns to Tier 1 tomorrow. It's the first Dutch driver to be on pole position in RPL since that person in Tier 2 last season at Vegas. Almost a 3/10 gap to JTK. And you've got 4 different teams inside the top 4. A Dutch front row. JTK starting second, his best start of the season for God knows how many times this season. Lennon, JTK, Tadpole round out the top 3. Jackstar, Groggers round out the top 5. Then Beatnik, Extender, Valkyrie, Owen, Instincts round out the top 10. And outside the top 10, we have some very interesting names outside there. Mythic, Grandpa. We've got Wavy returning. We've got J&T out there who took a points finish last week. Invade back there who had a chance for a podium in Singapore. A lot of big names back there. And it looks to be a completely dry race. Either way, drivers getting in their fuel, fixing any setups, and much more. Either way, here's your strategy. If the drivers are not going for a 2-stop like we saw in Tier 1 happen with 3 different drivers, actually 4 to be exact, we will see a 1-stop. And 1-stop is fast around here in this game, which is very unfortunate because the last couple of games we've had a 2-stop work perfectly for the drivers. And this time around, 1-stop is going to be the way to go. You have soft, hard, medium, hard, hard, medium, hard, soft. You could go soft, medium, but it's a very, very, very big stretch. You got to be very perfect at managing those tires. Expect to see pit stops anywhere from lap 9 to 22. And I say 9 to 22 because it depends on what tire they start on. You lose a total of 21 seconds in the pit lane. And you don't really gain a whole lot back here in the pit lane either with your battery. So save it very carefully. Because that battery is going to be used a lot during this race today. Soft, hard, medium, hard, hard, soft, hard, medium. That is the way to go. Here we go. The lights coming on with 2 rounds remaining in the season. Who comes out on top of Mexico? The lights are out. Away we go. Lennon gets a decent start. Is going to pull away, but the slipstream is going to be super powerful down to turn 1. Here comes Groggers. Here's the Mercedes ducking out. Behind that, JTK trying to pick up slipstream, but they're all picking up slipstream on him, and ducking out they go. The Ferrari inside of him. JTK diving down the inside and try to take the race lead. Can't do so. 3 wide. They jockey for position. Tadpole side by side with Groggers. The Mercedes of Valkyrie now side by side with Jackstar. They all keep it clean and trumble their way down toward turn 4. No front wings going up in the air so far, and now around the outside, the Mercedes tries to go on Jackstar, and we get the T-cam to see where everybody fans out and where everybody decides to go. The Mercedes pushing the McLaren off the track, the Mercedes down the inside on the Haas, and everybody very, very clean so far at the start, but they all try to figure it out single file to the S's. Everybody is, in fact, single file to the S's, and now you got a DRS zone right here after the S section, which will be enabled on lap number 3 of the race. Before we look at the tires, we look at the positions gained from the drivers. We have 2 from Groggers, who got a decent start, needed that. Valkyrie 3, Grandpa 3. According to fact, this is going to affect the drivers majorly. There's damage. Grandpa's involved in it. Mythic's involved in it. Both ghosted inside one another, and Grandpa's got damage. Your championship leader is trying to get to the pit lane and can't. J&T to the pit lane. Instincts to the pit lane. It's all troubling, especially for the championship leader. Or sorry, the championship driver trying to take the championship lead, excuse me. Groggers gets second. That is what he needed. He is 34 points back from Haunted. Right now, if this race were to end, he's in prime position to try to take second. Owen and Jackstar. Side by side, Jackstar is ahead. And in the midst of that, we had 4 positions gained from PK, 4 from Mythic, 2 for Owen, but 3 now for Groggers. Championship will go to next week, obviously, regardless of the circumstances, due to the fact that Hunt is not here and he leads the championship. But Grandpa, right behind in the championship, needs everything to go right, and he has had everything go wrong so far. In front of that battle, Instincts and J&T. These guys are already pitting, and it's going to get in the way of Grandpa. Already starting back there, so that's going to create a mess. Lap number 3 underway. And Stenner has the pit lane. Stenner must have been involved in that accordion effect. And look at what that Constantiner effect did. Although some drivers did get damaged, it put Mythic further back. It closed PK up to 10th. And in that DRS train, as DRS will be enabled this time into Sector 3. Now for the lead. The teammates, look at their gap within a second, and Groggers has pulled out that gap over JTK. Exactly what he needed right there to have a chance for this win, let alone to have a chance for Ferrari to claim the Constructors today. With Mythic being that far back there, they very well could do it. Here we go. Tadpole, JTK, part of the battle here for P3. With the current live standings in this moment, we've got another Constantiner effect, by the way. We just saw that. Either way, we've got Ferrari on maximum points right now without the fastest lap. This is without the fastest lap. And Red Bull on 15 points. What is that going to do now, you may ask? Well, that's a 30-point extension, meaning at this current moment, even with Tadpole overtaking JTK, it will mean Ferrari would win the championship. For the Constructors, Valkyrie sends it, goes way too deep, and has to back out of that one. They continue to race side by side at a turn number 3, banging wheels. Valkyrie with the chance to go through. Jackstar wants in the action, 2 by 2 on the run toward turn number 4, and Jackstar's around. Jackstar into the Bullard, and it's absolutely caused chaos. All cars having to find their way to get around it, but Jackstar takes P3 from all that. You saw a couple lagging moments from that. Was JTK a part of that too? Because he's gone back from 3rd to 6th. Now at the back of the field, Stenner, who pitted, Grandpa's got him. Grandpa's gone from 17th to 4th. At one point was last in this race. He's on the comeback and on the charge. We've got Invade at the back of this train getting through on Beatnik, and there's contact. PK's involved too. And luckily, Invade is out ahead of both of them. Therefore, Beatnik didn't punt to pass. Beatnik, the team principal of Mercedes. Very big dimension. Very big to focus on. Look at this now. The two Ferraris running 1-2 and about to overtake one another. Tadpole goes through on Jackstar. Luckily, Jackstar, when he went around, he did not get any damage. However, here come the Ferraris. Groggers to the race lead. Lennon gives it easy, but they've pulled a big gap to where they can do just that as Grandpa sets the fastest lap at the very back of the grid. The current gap in this championship race, Grandpa no points to his name. Groggers maximum points to his name except for the fastest lap. The gap would, in fact, be 9 points from Groggers to Haunted. Groggers has to win this race to at least get himself in a realistic chance. If Grandpa scores points, well, Grandpa could very well take over the championship lead. Invade now with a penalty. And here comes Valkyrie in the back of JTK, closing in for P6 in this race. Is she close enough? No, not going to send it. JTK slides. Contact with Valkyrie. Valkyrie races wheel to wheel outside the final corner. No position straight right there, but now on the front straight, DRS will be enabled. Stenner with a penalty, and now back to the lead. Once again, Lennon heating up Groggers, but not going to overtake you as you would expect with Groggers within a championship race. In the background, PK and Wavy trade spots. They race down the straight. Behind that, you've got the Mercedes Academy pair. Beatnik and Invade racing into turn 1 with Mythic in the background as Wavy does finally clear PK. The winner of round number 8 the last couple of seasons has went on to win the championship. And Groggers did win round 8 this season. It would be a 4th successive season that would happen if he were to win the championship, but he's putting himself, by leading this race, in prime position to do just that. Luckily for Grandpa, it looks like he's likely on a 2-stop race with this, so this 2-stop very well could work now that he is in a compromised position. Championship contender Grandpa just needs everything to go right, and obviously starting this race he had a lot of things go wrong, and now Lennon re-overtakes Groggers to take the race lead again. Behind that, Valkyrie chasing up JTK, gets the move done before turn 1. In front of that, you got Jackstar and Tadpole. JTK and Valkyrie remain single file to turn 1. JTK gaining again on the run to turn 4. In front of that, no overtakes between the Ferraris, but an overtake looking to be done here from Tadpole. We've got a couple different trains in this race between the drivers. And we'll see how that fares out. Luckily for Groggers, he's still in DRS. With the difference between Groggers and Lennon, what that does for the championship gap between Groggers and Hunted, what it does is the gap goes from 34 points to 9 to 34 points to 16. So when I say Groggers needs to win this race to have a realistic chance, he really does. That's all he can ask for. Wavy and Mythic trade spots as Mythic heads to the pit lane for a first stop in this race. Groggers, one of the drivers on the softs, has a chance to pull a decent gap over the rest of the field. Has done that as Tadpole overtook Jackstar into turn 1. With that said, though, about the Groggers and the medium runners up front with him, Owen, Valkyrie, Lennon, they will be pitting early here. Anywhere from now to lap 14, 15. Those hards, though, they can last a maximum of 28 laps. We'll be finding that out very soon as yellow flag in the first sector is for PK. Gets back going. Does not cause a VSC or a safety car. But so far to start this race, we've got 2 drivers who have penalties for exceeding the track limits more than 3 times, or more than 2 times. That's Invade and Stenner. We will be watching that closely. Track limits, a big thing around this track, no doubt about it. Groggers remains in DRS, but has to manage everything he's got in hand. They've both managed the ERS quite well. And now, Valkyrie, trying to pick one off at a time, once again, gets Owen for 5th. So she's on the charge up through the field. Has some very nice race pace in that Mercedes. You know, we saw with Mythic being in the Red Bull, by the way. We saw Owen in a Red Bull last season. He missed the last couple of rounds up until Brazil. And it gave some of those drivers a chance to be in a Red Bull. Hunted returned in a Red Bull. And look where he's at now, being full-time in the Red Bull. He's going for a championship, currently leading it. I said Grandpa was the championship leader, but, you know, it is hard to keep up with considering how many times the championship lead has changed between these drivers. And yellow flags, that is for Grandpa. Speaking of Grandpa, he's around again. Second issue this race, and he had his first retirement of the season last week in Qatar. I know someone's gonna correct me, Qatar. Now, with Tadpole being on the podium right now, let's just note They had a podium in Singapore. 6 different teams in the podium so far during the season. It would not be a new podium sitter in terms of their teams, but it would be very nice to see. I think Groggers is lagging a little bit behind Lennon. However, Jackstar and Tadpole are P3 and P4 with a bit of lag. What in the world? Still got battles going on throughout this whole field. No one overtaking as of the current moment, but Beatnik looks to have a move on JTK. Gets the position for now, but will he keep it? Side by side, they race to the final sector. Contact made. Beatnik ahead. And JTK wants a spot back, crosses over, gets the move done. Nice little switch back there from JTK. Forces Beatnik into an error, and Groggers pits for the first time this race from those soft tires. As he's on the softs, his tire wear likely around 48%. Goes to the mediums, expecting this to be a 2-stop now. We'll just have to find out. In front of that, Invade and Wavy trade spots. Now JTK battles back with Beatnik. Owen chasing after Valkyrie on the run toward turn number 4. And Tadpole hungry for P2 now with Groggers pitting. And by the way, I'm not sure if we picked this up or not, but when Grandpa did spin, he did pick up a 3-second time penalty for track limits. Got Owen following Valkyrie once again for P4 as well. Haas got a P4 finish with Lennon last week. Now you got Lennon leading in the Ferrari debut. And by the way, I know pit stops have been done, but with Kipu running in the points for Williams, they've only had 1 point since round number 3 at Austria. It would be very well to see them take one a day, whether it be with Kipu or eventually next week in Brazil. Here's Jackstar and Tadpole trading spots once again. How about Owen and Valkyrie now for P4? Owen gets the upper edge. Invade now battles back with the teammate. And position done right there. Got a move on the front straight potentially being made at the back of the field. Grandpa and J&T now. Mythic also behind that. Has already pitted as well as Grandpa. Little side-by-side action there. Mythic gets ahead. Grandpa still going to have the DRS down toward turn 4. Double detection. So will Mythic. But they're not close enough to make a move on J and T. And now they do remain single file. Just waiting on when Lennon will pit. I'm curious on this because you have Groggers already pitted. J&T with a penalty there. And Mythic's pitted. Make PK just recently pitted. A lot of drivers have pitted, but not that many at the front of the field. DRS now on the run of turn 1. It's a double detection point, so they'll have it down to toward turn 4, even if the overtake is done. Here's an overtake being done on 2 different battles. Jackstar ahead of Tadpole and Valkyrie getting through on Owen. Behind that, the 2 teammates once again race down to turn 1. These 2 cannot get away from each other, but nice little battle between these 2 and the Aston Martins. The ding-dong battle between Valkyrie, Owen, and Beatnik has involved Beatnik to close up to closing distance. Nine-second gap from Lennon to Jackster. The last thing they need in this race is a safety car. That's the last thing Groggers needs in this race. And I'd say that's the last thing they need because they want to continue this battling in terms of getting this fairly without any sort of luck. Besides the accordion effect and the damage being flown up in the air in the final sector and the opening laps, it's been clean so far, I must say. I must say. It must say. We got Groggers getting through an invade in the final sector. Invade's now going around and backs it into the barrier. We didn't really catch what happened there with Invade, but that's a bit odd. Beatnik now in a 3-car race on the run toward turn 1. Valkyrie gets split. Owen going through. And now Groggers battles Wavy. Can Groggers get through? Not just yet. Invade heads to the pit lane, had damage, and that rear wing could really be very unstable now as Groggers blasts past Wavy toward turn 4, gets the move done and is ahead. Needs to pick one off at a time, and he's done just that as of this current moment. Yeah, I don't know how the lag is because I've just noticed that Invade crash where, you know, he's going straight and then he's around. So we couldn't really tell what happened from a stream point of view. However, we're lucky most of these drivers clip these incidents or stream their point of view. Valkyrie on the run toward the stadium section now. Follows Owen, who's going to be the academy teammate for next season here at Mercedes. Valkyrie going to go from Mercedes to Aston Martin. 3-car battle. About to be 4 with JTK closing in. Almost in DRS. Here she goes. Ducks out. Makes the move. Makes a clear, decisive decision on which way she wants to go. And Beatnik splits the both. Beatnik gets both of them. 2 and 1 up to P4. And Tadpole gets through for second. And Valkyrie chasing back at the team principal of Beatnik. Here she comes. Can't get the move done. JTK, you can just see how far back he is. He is closing in. Does not have a lot of battery. Used it gaining to this battle, but is a lot closer. Grandpa pits once again and comes out on a new set of hards. And looks to go the rest of this race with that being said. Can those hards go the rest of this race? Well, the answer is yes, they can. And they can go comfortably the rest of this race now. Valkyrie gets a 3-second time penalty. The 6th different driver in the penalty box. Not good. So we've said the Drivers' Championship cannot be won today, but the Constructors' Championship can be. We've got Lennon out front with 25 points. Move being made first. Jexstar, Tadpole. Second place, Jexstar gets through. JTK's caught up. With that being said, 25 points for Ferrari right now. Groggers at a whopping 4 points for Ferrari. So that's 29 to JTK 6, meaning it's a 22-point gap. Right there. Excuse me, 23. Either way, what happens then at this point with those guys, with a 23-point gap, is it puts Ferrari at a 42-point gap overall, meaning the championship would still go on to Brazil, but realistically would not be won by Red Bull, who won the Season 9 Constructors title, but doesn't look like they'll be able to defend this one if things continue at the trend they are right now. Pitting is JNT, going on to the hards. Coming out of the pit lane now with his teammate Stenner getting a penalty. And in front of that, PK battles with Grandpa. PK jumps the curb, but could not get alongside there. Here's Tadpole on the run toward turn 1. 5 consecutive points finishes. Currently in the points right now, looking to make it 6, going through for second place. Owen pits. In front of that, Groggers and JTK. Ferrari versus Red Bull. We've not seen this a whole lot. Here we go. Groggers getting through and up into P6. Invade now with a time penalty. Kipu pits, Owen pits. Groggers has been on podium quite a few times. He's been on podium in 9 of his last 13 starts. And needs this one the most. And Invade and Stenner trade spots on the run toward turn number 1, as Wavy is now part of the penalty club. 7 drivers now in that penalty club, in fact. Pitting is your race leader, Lennon. So finally in, we're going to see how this fares out for him. Tadpole and Jexter still stay out. Ferrari, points in all but 1 race this season. That's exactly why. Or sorry, podium in all but 1 race this season, excuse me. That is exactly why they lead the Constructors' title, or table, to a Mercedes swap. And here comes Groggers, the other Ferrari. Valkyrie and Groggers almost come together. Valkyrie's already came together with one of the championship contenders. Excuse me, that was Beatnik, not Valkyrie. Valkyrie got ahead of Beatnik before that. They almost connected wheels. Groggers gets through for P4. Beatnik going to challenge back up the outside line. Side by side at 4 and 5. Can Beatnik keep his nose there? Contact made, but Groggers is ahead. Make PK now with a penalty. Excuse me, I was saying how Ferrari, they've won 2 of their last 3 races. And in fact, the only race this season that they were not in the podium, they were P6 and P7 back in Hungary. And they've been extremely consistent as a team. So they're at a good rate rather than not. Yeah, to pit in this race, you got Jexter, Tadpole, Valkyrie, Beatnik, JTK, Wavy, Kipu, and Instincts. And the 2 leaders are in. Tadpole slides in the pit lane, though. That's going to cost him time. Valkyrie is in as well. And now for the race lead, it's going to be Groggers ahead of Beatnik. Lennon came out P4, but net P1 with Groggers also likely to pit again. Could Groggers make the rest of this race, though? Likely not. It would be a big stretch, would be very uncharacteristic, but we'll find out if it's done. As my pen is just broke on me. I think you heard that. Owen and Kipu now for P7. That could have seriously hurt me. That'll be a out of context thing for the stream for those of you who want to clip that. But yeah, my pen did just break. Trying to see all the stuff in my on my sheet here. You know, in terms of teams, we've got McLaren, who's got 1 car in the points right now. They've been in the points every single race this season. Red Bull have 2. JTK in the wall! JTK in the wall! And that's the virtual safety car! He's going to tiptoe back to the pit lane, but the leaders are in. The leaders are in. And this surely helps Groggers at this perfect time because he was going to pit again eventually, but was going to come out behind Lennon with a big, big gap. Now it's not going to be as big of a gap as Groggers ahead of Beatnik easily. We'll wait if this is a full safety car or not. We saw this happen last week in Qatar. Tadpole and Jexter race out the pit lane too, trying to catch the front runners. DRS enabled. Here they come out of the pit lane. This is going to be quite a race. Here's Jexter in front of both of them with Tadpole charging. Tadpole now going to try to block off Groggers, and side by side, Tadpole gets through. Now it's a 4-car race here. The gap to the lead, though, is 15 seconds, though. Like I was saying, McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari points in every round this season. JTK going around is not going to help Red Bull continue the point streak, though, no doubt about it. Kipu pits. Our first VSC came out of the race. Invade getting through on J&T as well down the straight. Here's J&T dive bombing it toward turn 1, getting through. Very neatly done. Scored points in his RPL return last week. Season 5, Tier 2 finale was the last time he scored points. In the background, Stenner and Grandpa now battling for P12. Grandpa, your championship contender, is also the points. And penalty toward PK's name. 8th different driver with a penalty. And we've had a clean race so far as well. I mean, JTK with that front wing going gone. Luckily, he's not out of the race. 2 DNFs in Qatar and Spain. The least we've had this game cycle. The least we've had this season. I mean, we've had 1 DNF back in Zandvoort for Tier 1. So, we're in a good setting right now for this. As coming in is Instincts in the Haas. In front of that, the 2 Red Bulls swaparoo. Right there, excuse me. Hold on, Grandpa and Stenner as well on the front straight. Grandpa gets through on Stenner. Stenner chases back, but does not get the place. A lot of controversy with Grandpa here in Tier 1. Didn't have the best of races. Retired on the pit lane. And caused the stack up with him and Luke. Costed Luke 15 seconds. We did not really get to see how the 2-stop would be because of that with Luke. Probably could have been on the podium. With that being said, Groggers is our one driver we're watching out for on a 2-stop in this race. The only driver inside the top 10 on a 2-stop. Grandpa on a 2-stop outside the points, though. Looking to get some points because if he does close the gap on Hunted, it helps his chances toward Brazil. Fastest lap trading between everybody with the virtual safety car ending. Couple laps past that now. And they're on newer tires, so this is their first free lap. As here goes Jackster, ducking out, getting the place. Now, what does this do now with Tadpole having no DRS down the run toward turn 4? Groggers chasing right behind. Here's Groggers with DRS. Here's Groggers using the battery. Groggers ducking out. Inside line. Here we go. Wheel to wheel. Turn number 5. Switchback time for Groggers. Couldn't get the move done, though, because Tadpole got the traction. Now Groggers looked to send one, but couldn't do it. He was too far back. Beatnik now. Heating up the charge. Couldn't get past. Worth mentioning with JTK spinning around there with the front wing damage, it did help him with the virtual safety car, but this pack of cars is a long, long way away, and so is P6 for him. And he's been inside the top 6 in 11 of his last 12 starts, so would be very nice for him to do that, but a lot needs to happen first. These guys are just continuing to slowly but surely catching on the race leader Lennon, and here goes Tadpole gaining, and now pulling out left side this time on Jackster, gets the move done. So the 2 Alpine Academy teammates using DRS mind games here to throw off Groggers as Valkyrie P6 now. PK with a penalty. How about Groggers gaining on Jackstar, who did not have DRS right there, pulling out, looks to make the move, but can't do so. Jackstar shut the door right there, and those 2 came together in Hungary, but did not come together this time. Grandpa now at Stenner for P11 on the run to turn 1. Side by side between the 2. Stenner and Grandpa gonna race side by side now at a turn 3. Stenner trying the switchback. Stenner looks to the right side. Stenner getting through, but Grandpa has the DRS now on the run to turn 4, and that's gonna propel him way past and up into P11 once again. PK slows into the pit lane. Could have been a retirement, but it's not. It's new tires. AlphaTauri no points since Austria. DRS train follows once again, but Jackster cannot close in for the overtake this time. Got an AlphaTauri coming out of the pit lane ahead, about to be lapped by these guys. Already lapped by the race leader of Lennon. Was that a bit of front wing going off? Was that a bit of front wing going off? Who broke their front wing right there? Yellow flags there. The front wing coming off came from one of these 4 cars, and I can't tell which one it was. And I'm thinking it's PK. Was it PK? I think it is PK. Yes, it was PK. DRS now on the run toward turn 1. These guys continue to gain on Lennon, but doesn't look like it's enough to mount a late race charge. If they allow Groggers past, could he charge toward his teammate? I don't know. Would be very interesting to see if that would be the case or not. Speaking of cases, Jackster looking to make a case on why he should be P2 in this race, but overtaking Tadpole once again for P2, regaining that spot. Another penalty as well with Mythic and PK, the first retirement to this race. Here goes Tadpole on the run back toward turn number 4. Can't get the move done. Groggers follows in behind, waiting for something to happen. And AlphaTauri's pointless streak since Austria just continues once again. Speaking of other teams, all teams have scored points. Haas in the points with Owen. They've scored points in 6 races this season, one of them being last week. Owen, as well, has done quite well. He's had some P8 finishes in a row. In fact, 3 P8 finishes in a row for Owen. 1 P4 being his best finish. 3 consecutive points finishes with those P8s, so he's on a good charge. P7 now, just 1 ahead of that. However, here we go. Groggers mounting up a charge. Wants to get past. Needs to get past. P3 for him. They split Jackstar. Tadpole inside line. They touch. They bang. And Groggers the outside line. Trying to get through. He touches with Jackstar once again. Switchback time though. Jackstar off the road. Groggers with DRS and Jackster, the lone driver without DRS. Here goes Groggers on the outside line. They bang. Groggers inside line now for the next corner. They touch again. They continue to bang wheels as Jackstar off the road. He might have to give up the place, but Groggers sends it. Makes contact and through into P number 2. Yellow flags. That was for the Aston Martin. That was Invade. His race is going downhill. With that battling, they were 11 seconds back from Lennon, but now they're 12, and Groggers can finally, maybe too little too late, have a chance at Lennon. For the sake of Ferrari's Constructors' Championship, let's see who has fastest lap. It is a Mercedes of Beatnik. That Mercedes has had 3 fastest laps this season, looking to make it 4th. Here goes Stenner and Mythic. P10 on the road. Stenner cannot get past, but here's Jackster trying to regain 2nd place in this race. Outside line. Can't get the move done. I must say, with this race starting 10 minutes late, it is living up to the hype. And speaking of the hype, your championship contender, Grandpa, is out of this race, and now it's the safety car. Grandpa gonna be pointless during this race, but now I think Jackster has to give up the place he re-overtook under the safety car. Did that. Now overtaking Groggers again because it's just a kerfuffle. And Invade with a drive-thru under the safety car, but Grandpa out of this race, the 2nd retirement. And late race drama with the safety car. McLaren's consecutive point streak is going to have to rely on Jackster now. It's really unfortunate, and I think there was contact between Jackster and Groggers. The race leader of Lennon is in for softs, and those softs can make it. I see everybody coming in for the softs, unless you're going to do it. Boss Cookie did! There's contact in the pit lane! Oh, no! Tadpole with a penalty. Oh, no! Oh, my goodness. Wow. And Valkyrie's left the session. Something's happened with her, because her car is the only driver who stayed on track as of right now. Grandpa, second race running with a DNF. This was on track, though, and he's going to be back by 6 points to Grandpa after it ends today. And McLaren's shot at a Constructor's title looks to be ending as well. If they continue where they run at right now, you got Groggers with a whopping 12 points. Lennon with 25. 37 for Ferrari. Right now, 4 for Red Bull. That's a 33-point difference. And it would be enough for Ferrari to claim the Constructor's title. And it's going to be a while till these guys catch up to the safety car, but the safety car will wait, most likely. Now the top 5 catch up. Interval gap just not updating itself, I guess. After Grandpa's DNF and Valkyrie back in the session. A couple other statistics to mention as well. The last time Red Bull did not score points, because we got a chance to have that happen again with JTK being only 8th, Mythic being 13th. Last time they did not score points. Well, that is back 24 races ago in May, Season 8, Round 7. Hunted and Grandpa. 1 DNF this season heading into this race. Grandpa adding a second one to his name. We've got as well Tadpole. Valkyrie, the only drivers to start every race this season. And worth a mention, Groggers missed 2 races to start the season, debuted in a Haas at Bahrain, and has a chance to win this championship. I know there's still a lot that can happen with a couple of laps remaining after the safety car restart, but if he can finish P2, he's 15 points back. 16, excuse me. If he finishes P3, he's 19 points back. But he needs to finish better than 6th, I believe, to have a chance at the championship into next week. And right now he's 4th. And that trend of round 8 winners going on to win the championship, see what happens. McLaren now with 3 consecutive DNFs, though, due to Groggers. Or, excuse me, Grandpa. We had 11 of you watching at one point. Oh my god. Well, I saw it pipe back up again. Hopefully, you guys let us know if you think Groggers can mount a charge here. Back to the race lead. He has a chance. Will it be a realistic chance or not? I don't know. I'm going to quickly take a 60-second break, but quick thing before that. Later on this weekend, F2's racing in Australia. F1 tomorrow, as well as F2 is tomorrow too. F1 tomorrow for RPL is at Vegas, and Tier 2 next week, the finale of the season at Brazil. Safety car in this lap. Valkyrie had to stay out due to the AI. Jackster chose to go on mediums. JNT chose to go to mediums. And the field continues to stack up, but it's Lennon in control for Ferrari. Back on the gas, we're underway again. Pedal to the metal. Lennon got a great restart. Potentially caught the field napping. But they're all going to use their battery, and they're all going to chase after the race leader with Jackster, Groggers, and all them behind. Single file so far to turn 1. No moves being made at the current moment. Wavy with a penalty. 3 seconds to his name. Here's second place. Valkyrie and Jackster on the run to turn number 4. Racing it out. Inside line. Dives it. They touch wheels for just a moment, but wheel to wheel, Jackstar uses all of the track, creates his own line, picks up a penalty, touches again with Valkyrie as they go 2x2. Now Groggers wants in on the action. Groggers wants to get past Valkyrie as soon as possible. Behind that, Tadpole also heating up Beatnik. Tadpole does have a penalty though, so that will compromise him. And now Valkyrie struggling in front of Groggers and could put Groggers out of DRS here. If Groggers does not get past, and getting a little tap is Groggers from Beatnik. We'll see how the medium runners fare in this compared to the soft runners, but the soft runners are going to make it to the end, and they're going to do just fine. Groggers gaining in the slipstream. Here he comes! Pulls out! Side by side to turn 1 and is ahead. And here's Beatnik chasing. 2x2. Stack up. Valkyrie hit Groggers, but now Beatnik side by side with Tadpole. They do touch for just a moment, and now Owen wants to be involved. Owen with a nice little battle here. Trying to gain the place once again. Get up to P6. No penalties to his name. Outside line now on Tadpole. JTK just sends them both, and around goes Beatnik. Beatnik spinning off and out of the points. That was contact from Owen and Tadpole both together with the help of JTK sending it at that corner, jumping over the curb. But now both Red Bulls in the points from all that. How does this affect them will become the question, with 3 drivers having penalties in front of JTK, with Tadpole now looking on Owen. Oh, he gives him the squeeze. The 2 former champions really not playing nice. With Beatnik's spin, it slots him in behind Instincts and J&T. Mythic and Wavy now side by side. Wavy pushes him out, pinches him, gets ahead though. Now Groggers needs to gain everything he can. At least stay within 2 seconds of Jackstar. Then try to do all you can. And here they go. Splitting Valkyrie and the Mercedes. Owen outside. Tadpole inside. They touch! Owen almost having a Checo Perez moment down to turn 1. And Valkyrie almost going spinning too, but losing places only. Now, Stenner, 2-1, gets the move done. Owen wants a challenge back though. Here he comes. Mythic now gets Valkyrie. Valkyrie still not on ghosting. Now she is. Mythic getting a tap and going around. And will be behind Beatnik. Beatnik inside here of Instincts in front of that Kipu on Wavy. They touch the 2 Academy teammates. Kipu now pulls to the inside here. It's all kicking off, but luckily not the way it did in Brazil in Tier 1 last week. Here's J&T for the fringes of points. He has a penalty, but there's others in front of that who have 6 seconds just like he does. Here's Beatnik sending it side by side. The 2 Americans go. J&T inside line for the final corner. They do touch for just a moment, but J&T turns on the battery. Beatnik as well races side by side. Kipu gets through on Wavy. DRS enabled. In front of that, Stenner chases after JTK for P5 now, but has a penalty. Wavy with Kipu. Kipu ducks out. Wavy ducks out on Valkyrie. Contact made. Whoa. Spinning in the final sectors invade with rear wing damage, but Wavy gets the place. Beatnik gets J&T, excuse me. I was about to say JTK, but J&T getting heated up from Instincts now for the place. And Instincts is through. Here's Stenner now in the back of JTK. Jackster closing in on Lennon. We've not talked about a lot this race. We say we've not talked about a lot this race because Lennon has been out front and has been what we expected extremely well. Points last week on debut for a Haas, P4 in fact, their best finish of the season. Penalties all over. Kippu, I believe Stenner was part of it too. And I agree with Titan. What a wild race so far. We're glad to see you next week in Brazil, which will be on the calendar next season, and at a surprising date. Might go to Brazil more than once, back to back. Here goes Stenner, inside on JTK. Gets the move done for P5. However, Stenner has to pull a gap, though, with the penalties he has. JTK looking back at it. Kippu now breezes past Valkyrie. Does Beanick look to do the same? Not just yet. Instincts there following suit with the DRS. We're now in the penultimate lap where Lennon leads this race for Ferrari and could claim the Constructors' title for Ferrari as well. Groggers in a 3-second gap. Beanick gets Valkyrie. In a 3-second gap. Could very well take the Constructors' title. 1-2 for them. 43 points on stake for them. 44 with the fastest lap. But 44 to 12 is going to mean Ferrari will win the Constructors' Championship today if they could just hold on. Final lap underway. Final lap underway. Lennon leads Jackster by a 1.4 gap. And only a second race. He's looking for a first victory. It was a Haas last week that he started with, Lennon, in his first ever start. Points on debut. Tied their best finish of the season, which Owen had previously just by himself. And now on a Ferrari debut as a reserve. Well, excuse me. Being called up, though, from that spot at Haas full-time. Looking to win there for Ferrari. Wavy gets Owen. Beatnik and Kippu now race to turn one. Kippu locks the rears and sideways he goes. Valkyrie makes contact, but they all get out okay, it looks like. J&T looking to get the spot on Instincts. Instincts without a penalty. Here's J&T ducking out to the right side, using all the battery. DRS enabled for him. Takes it very cautiously there. Side by side again, 2x2. And here they come to the final sector. J&T and Instincts continue to race it out. Lennon and Jackstar side by side. It's going to be a race on track to the finish. Jackstar trying to battle Lennon. Lennon in only a second start is going to win the race and in a photo finish. And Ferrari, with Groggers being P2, will take the Constructors' Championship for the first time in Tier 2. They've done it. 1-2 for them. JTK P4 could not hold on for enough for Red Bull. Behind that, they race to the line. Tons of battling. We couldn't catch it. Oh, my goodness. J&T spins across the line. There was someone else across the line spinning, too, but you see all the finishers here from fourth on back. Jackster can only be P3. How close was that photo finish? 20 thousandths with Jackster ahead, but couldn't take it off penalties. What a win for Lennon, by the way, and only it's just his second start in RPL. JTK P4 for Red Bull, continuing the top 6 streak. Tadpole P5, Owen continuing the point streak. Alpine with Tadpole continuing that streak as well. Beatnik inside the points once again. Podium last week, Stenner. Points for him and Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo needed that dearly. Wavy as well, P9. Taking a points finish in his return. Instincts, the last points runner. And Invade, the teammate of Wavy, is the last one across the line. Jexter thinking he might get his pen removed, but I saw what happened there. He went off track himself, and he stayed in the place. I don't think it will be removed, but we'll see, because crazier things have happened. And here's your podium celebrations. With being P2 on the road right there. No fastest lap to him, but he is still in this championship race for the drivers. Champagne now chucking it down for Ferrari, who win the Constructors' Championship for the first time in Tier 2. They've never done it before. P2 at best. How about that? Ferrari deserved this. They've been on podium all but one race this season in Tier 2. They've worked hard for it, and they wrap it up a race early. Similar to how Red Bull did the same thing last season. In fact, I think they did it earlier than one race last season, excuse me. They did it before the final race, though. They did it Canada last season. So I had to fact check myself because I was incorrect. Either way, make sure to get results. Here are your final results. Driver of the day. This is tough for me. This is actually kind of really tough. I hate to say it. Owen? No. Lennon? Don't know. I don't know. Lennon did what was expected, but realistically, took pole, won the race, helped his teammate out to finish P2 on that penalty charge, really. So, I mean, as much as Owen did really well by getting a P6 in a Haas, I'm going to say Lennon and a Ferrari. Thanks, my driver of the day. Again, it's hard to say who really should be it when there's not really many contenders for it with that kind of race. You could give it to some people who finish well on those cars that are not great. Tadpole is not in one of the top 5 cars, but finished P5. Owen was P6. It's just interesting to see, say the least. Either way, I'm going to say Lennon driver of the day. It's my final word. That is my final word. Well, that looks to be it for the race. Tomorrow, we are racing for F2. You may ask, where are we racing? That is in Australia. 4:15 p.m. UK time. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. UK time, is F1 at Las Vegas, before the real life event, obviously. And next week, we wrap up a title in Brazil, Tier 2. Catch us for that. Just one other thing as well to mention, actually 2. Driver standings gap with Groggers being P2. It is a 16-point gap, maybe? $16-point gap. So he has a chance. Grandpa did nothing today, so Hunted continues with the championship lead once again. Championship lead has changed multiple times this season. By the way, with the Constructors' Championship being clinched, we're going to focus on a couple of the races in the Constructors at the finale, besides the Drivers' Championship. We have Haas and Alpine in a battle for P6. Tadpole just took P5. Haas took P6 with Owen, but they took P10 with Instinct. So Haas have the upper edge by 1 point. Williams, P8, heading into this race. Alfa Romeo took a good finish with Stenner, so very well a big battle for that position. And AlphaTauri, last in the Constructors' Championship. Only points finish the season was back at Austria, where they finished P6. They have 8 points to their name. And Alfa Romeo have raced less races as well, and they're in the battle for P8. Just for further context. Either way, 3 contenders will battle it out for the championship in Brazil. Hunted Grandpa Groggers. Ferrari win the Constructors' Championship for the first time in RPL in Tier 2. And tomorrow, tune in for the action. Australia for F2, Vegas for F1, and next week we are at Tier 2 Brazil. Same time as always. Make sure you tune in the action. Whatever you're watching, whether it be an evening, morning, night. I'm your commentator, Ryan Searles. Have a good one. We'll see you for the next time you tune into RPL. And good night, folks.